Sub-agents are one of the most powerful capabilities inside of Claude Code. And while a lot of people, a lot of creators talk about them or cover them, nobody is showing you how to build sub-agents for writing operations or content creation inside of Claude Code. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to show you exactly how you can build a writing agent, how you can give it access to Claude's skills to use, and how you can implement all of this in a larger writing system inside of Claude Code. Make sure to watch to the end of the video if you want to use all the exact resources I show you in this video. I'll tell you exactly how you can get them and put them into your own Claude Code system. Before we get started into it, let's first just define what sub-agents are. And to do that, we'll just look at Claude Code's documentation because they can define it better than any of us can. These are specialized AI sub-agents in Claude Code for task-specific workflows and improved context management. Custom sub-agents in Claude Code are special AI assistants that can be invoked to handle specific types of tasks. Now, also important to note, you don't even have to manually invoke these. If you have effective Claude.md system prompts, if you have effective sub-agent system prompts, then it will autonomously invoke the agents, when it should. So that is another important thing to keep in mind. You can basically build out teams of these sub-agents inside of your Claude Code writing system and just run all these different writing operations, with spinning up sub-agents simultaneously, invoking them autonomously. So there are a couple key benefits, that we can run through really quick of sub-agents. The first is context preservation. Each operates in its own context. This means it doesn't pollute the main conversation. It stays inside of that context. It also allows you to give specialized expertise to these sub-agents so they can be fine-tuned with detailed instructions. Now, people create agents, in various different ways. A lot of what you're going to see out there is for development and coding work. But what I find best for writing operations and content creation is specifically using these sub-agents as more or less like orchestrator agents for specific tasks. And then what you can do is load those sub-agents up with specific Claude skills that teach them how to carry out a specific task, like writing a newsletter or a thought leadership article or maybe social media posts, and the list can go on and on. So what you really want is these sub-agents to be like orchestrators and then have a library of skills that they can invoke under them to carry out specific writing or content tasks. Also, reusability. Once created, you can use them across different projects. You could copy and paste these agents. You could sell them. You can use them in client systems. All of that is possible. And then we have flexible permissions. Each one can have different access to different tools, which we'll see when we actually create it. Now, to create this, on the left side of my screen, you're going to see I have Claude Code running in the terminal. I'm using Cursor, but you could be using any code editor tool that you want. You can also even use Claude's own desktop app, which now has Claude Code in it, and you can even use the VS Code extension so you could see all of your different folders. And then my writing system here, we have a .claude file with an agents folder and a skills folder. We have a context file or context folder with my JSON context profiles, which explain to Claude, in JSON about my business, about my ideal client profiles, and how to write in my voice DNA. Then we have a knowledge folder, which I use to hold, all the different, drafts and knowledge of my writing operations. And then we have our Claude.md system prompt. Now, you can have, whatever system that you're running inside of Claude Code, but you can also get this exact starting kit folder. I'm calling this like a Claude Code starter kit, and you can watch my masterclass here that's also on YouTube and get access to this starter kit that you can just open up right in your own Cursor or Claude Code and use it. But either way works. Today, we're going to be just putting an agent inside of this system, okay? So what we're going to do, I'm going to open up the terminal here, and to create an agent, the first thing we need to do is put /agent, and this is going to allow us to manage our agent configurations. You can see I already have one here that I created, which we are going to delete really quick so that we can start fresh. But you're going to see, all right, agents, no agents found. Now we can create specialized sub-agents. Now, there are a couple built-in agents that you might not even have realized using Claude Code. These are the ones that Claude Code itself uses, the ones that are like automatically inside here. There's like a general purpose one, a planning one. But today we're going to create specific ones for writing. So you're just going to hit enter here. And then the first thing you need to do is choose your location. You can either choose project, meaning it's inside this project here, or personal, meaning it's on your system file or locally across all your projects. For writing operations, I highly recommend using project-specific agents because it's super easy just to take that file, copy it, and paste it into any other projects, and keep everything nice and clean, especially if you're dealing, for example, maybe you're a ghostwriter dealing with multiple clients, or maybe you're running content for different startups or businesses or CEOs or whatever. I like to keep everything very siloed and protected from one another, so I'll always use project here. The next we're going to have to do is choose our generation method. We can either generate with Claude or we can do a manual configuration. If you hit enter on generate with Claude, all you have to do is explain what kind of agent you want, very simply, be as detailed as possible, and Claude will create it for you. But for today, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to do a manual configuration because I highly recommend you just get good at writing these system prompts or finding other people like myself who provide them to you, because these are highly specific for writing operations. These are the ones I use in my daily, writing businesses and content businesses. So we're going to hit enter on manual configuration. And the first thing we need to do is enter a unique identifier. Today, what we're going to build is a newsletter writing agent. So we're going to say a newsletter writer, or we'll just say a newsletter agent, click enter. Now we need to write the system prompt. Now, there are many, many techniques to go into writing system prompts. You can go learn those. You can study those. You can try it out yourself. I highly recommend always doing it. I don't write system prompts from scratch either. I work with Claude to write system prompts. Oftentimes what I'll do is also, prior to this whole, new Claude Code and agents and all these different, ways to run your writing operations, a lot of what we were using were prompts, right? Very detailed prompts beforehand. You can take those prompts and they are amazing starting points for building out into full agent system prompts. So if you have prompts that you really like or that you've been using, just give that to Claude and ask it to help you turn that into an agent system prompt, and then go from there. Here, what we're going to do is I already have one. We're going to come here to my resources for my Substack subscribers. So if you want these exact agent system prompts and various other tools and skills, check out my Substack. That's where you can get it. But we have the newsletter writer agent here, and I have written out the entire system prompt. So we got the name, like I said, and now here's the system prompt. Claude Code agents or subagents, all they're using is an MD, a markdown file for the system prompt. So you can literally just copy this here. We have a newsletter writer agent. I'm going to copy all of this and then we'll go through it and I'll read you through some of it so you can see kind of how this works, okay? So here on the left, now we have the system prompt, newsletter writer agent. You are a newsletter writing specialist. Your job is to coordinate the production of complete, ready-to-publish newsletters. We then tell it that it's not writing from scratch. What it needs to do is load the user's context profiles from our system here on the left. It needs to gather necessary information from the user, find and use the appropriate writing skill. Like I told you, I build my agents so they invoke Claude's skills. One of the most incredible things about Claude Code now is we have all these tools at our disposal. We have the sub agents, or the Claude.md at the top. We have sub agents underneath that. We have library of Claude skills underneath that. We have MCP servers. There's so much we can do for writing operations. Like, nobody is doing this. So if you're watching this video right now, if you're following me, if you're even attempting to start building this out, you are like in the 1% of the 1% of people using AI for writing operations, because nobody else is really doing this right now. And then it's going to deliver a complete newsletter. We go through the step-by-step process. We tell it what to do and what not to do, all right? After we have the system prompt, we're just going to hit enter here, and now we're going to give it a description. This description is what your main Claude is going to read to know like when to use or invoke this agent. I actually have this written here too, so let me just grab that also and copy it. We're going to tell it here in its description. We're going to say, writes complete newsletters using context profiles and available skills. Use when a user wants to write Substack newsletters. You can change this to just, thought leadership newsletters or just regular newsletters. Like I said, I have Substack, so I use this for myself, for my own Substack content. And then we'll say mentions, write a newsletter or draft a newsletter, or needs long form educational content for their audience. So this just helps Claude understand when to use it. We're going to hit enter. Now we can select the tools we want to give it access to. We want to give it access to all the tools here, but you can even open this up and take away or give certain access to certain tools. We're going to give it access to all tools. And now we need to select the model. If you do writing operations at scale, if you're serious about writing with AI in any level, if you're actually using it for professional work, highly recommend you sign up for Claude's or Anthropic's Claude Max plan, anywhere between $100, I think, to $200 a month, right? I use the $200 a month plan, and I run Opus like multiple hours a day, all day long. I never run into limits. So if that's what you have, I recommend using Opus, as much as you can. Then we're just going to choose a color here for the agent, whatever, automatic color. And this is our new agent. We can now enter to save it. And there it is. We now have the agent, newsletter agent, and you're going to see that now in this .claude file, we have agents and we have our newsletter agent right here. So it's as simple as that. That's how we build the agent. But we're not done yet, right? Because yeah, the agent's there, but it has no skills. This is like an agent with no skills. So we need to give it skills. And the skill we're going to give it, which it should eventually have, many skills at its disposal to, invoke. But what I want to give it is a thought leadership newsletter skill, all right? Also, I'm going to include this for Substack members. If you want, you can just download and use this exact Claude skill. You can go look for your own skills. If you have them already, there's libraries out there. You could try to find them. But I really like this thought leadership newsletter skill. I use it for myself, for clients. You can use it for, writing thought leadership for executives, CEOs, startups, for yourself, for industry leaders. And what this newsletter skill does is it writes value-packed thought leadership newsletters between 800 to 1,500 words that educate, entertain, and position the writer as the go-to authority in their space. We're going to tell it when to activate this. When a user wants to write a newsletter or weekly email, we're going to give it a core philosophy. Now, this is very detailed skill. My Claude skills are highly detailed, multiple pages long. So we have the 4 pillars of a killer newsletter. We tell it, how to load our context profiles. Kind of everything you see that I built here is very specific to our system. So this is not something other people are going to be copying and using. We have very, very unique approach here to building out writing operations inside of Claude Code. We're going to tell it to load the context profiles, craft subject lines, what else? Write these hooks, greetings, all right, CTAs, all of that. It goes on and on and on, right? I'm not going to read through all of it. But once you have this skill, which you can literally download if you want the zip file here, and then we'll have down here in the downloads, that will give us this folder here. And this is already in the correct format for Claude skills, which is the skill.md file in folder. And we just are going to drag that into our skills, which I already have there. So just replace it. And now you could see we have my agents folder with my newsletter agent and my skills folder with a couple skills that are already there, and then this new thought leadership skill. So now we're officially done, pretty much. Now we have our writing sub-agent inside of Claude Code for newsletters, and we have a thought leadership newsletter skill that we're going to give that agent access to. So the next thing we do is just go to a regular chat. And now this would be up to you. However it is you want to write these, say you are working for a company or you are a ghostwriter for CEOs or executives and you need to write a thought leadership newsletter. You just need to provide your notes or transcripts or whatever serves as the basis of your idea for the newsletter. You're going to give it to Claude and tell it to write a thought leadership newsletter. Just to demonstrate this quickly, I'll go to a YouTube video that I released last week on adding 16 professional skills to your Claude Code setup. And I'm literally just going to paste this transcript in here and I'm going to, use voice dictation to tell Claude. Here is a transcript on a YouTube video I did last week on adding professional skills to your Claude Code setup. I want you to write a thought leadership newsletter based on this. And then we're going to paste the transcript. Now, when Claude starts spinning up this process here, the first thing it's going to do is read our context profiles here, our JSON context profiles. This is going to help it understand our business or voice our ideal client profiles. So we want to do that. That is written into our Claude file or Claude.md that is written into our agents, our skills, all very heavily rely on these context profiles. After that, it's going to launch the newsletter agent to write this thought leadership newsletter based on my YouTube video. So that's going to take a few seconds. I'll let that run through. It's going to invoke the thought leadership skill, and then we'll see what the final output is. Now, when you see this here, you could see that this is the actual agent. Where did it go here? This is the actual agent that's spinning up and working here. And we can even run this now in the background. If you were to hit Control B, you could run this in the background as you're doing other things inside of Claude Code, which is awesome. You can run up multiple agents. You can work on something else while it's running. But that's for another video after you start using agents. So let's let that run for a few seconds and then get back to it. All right, so it literally took like less than a minute and it's already done. We could see here that it finished, the newsletter agent finished, and it gave us our thought leadership newsletter based on the YouTube video. It gives us our subject line options. We have Claude Code has a secret upgrade most people don't know about. I just discovered hidden skills inside of Claude Code, the Claude feature that turns your writing system into a content machine. This is all based off of the skill I gave it. We have the newsletter, the thought leadership newsletter completely written out in my voice using my voice DNA, targeted at my ICP, at my ideal client profile, with my business context, with best practices for writing subject lines and headings and titles, with the CTA that we told it. So we have this very detailed thought leadership newsletter. And then we have a couple notes here at the bottom. We sign off here, talk soon, Alex. Then we have some notes from Claude itself about what it did here. So you can see like the newsletter uses your voice DNA, speaks to your ICP's pain points, and transforms it into a scannable thought leadership piece with clear CTAs. So that is it. That is how you build out an incredible writing operation inside of Claude Code. That is how you build a newsletter writing sub agent with, Claude skills that it can use to write different types of newsletters. What I'm showing you here is incredibly valuable. This is just the beginning of what you can do. Imagine all the different sub agents you could build, all the different Claude skills that you could give them access to. And you start to really see what the future of, writing operations inside of Claude Code or AI really looks like. You see how much power one individual can have with all these different sub agents running underneath them, which is exactly what I do. I don't have a single employee. I don't have a single person writing for me. I don't have nothing. I run all of these writing operations and agents myself in Claude Code across different businesses. I have #2 newsletter rising on Substack technology that I use these sub agents to help me with. I have client work. I ghostwrite for CEOs. I run content for startups all by myself using these sub agents. So definitely check this out. If you're not doing it, you need to be doing it. And if you haven't joined my Substack yet, definitely consider doing that, because here you will get access to all these resources that you see in my videos. Claude Code starting kits, Claude Code sub agent skills. So check that out. And in the future, we're really going to explore this even more and building out all sorts of crazy agents and skills.